What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Supergirl Season 3, Episode 14, Shot Through the Heart. Oh, that one. Whew, that pun hurt. Oh, right right in the side of the cheek. So, yeah. Definitely one of the better episodes of this season, which is sad because similar to the couple episodes where Deathstroke was on Arrow, I'm like, oh, these episodes are awesome. Similar to that, my thought is, oh, this episode was awesome, but it's probably not going to be after this because pretty much it's about this one story that's probably not coming back. So yeah, let's talk about it. I honestly, you guys know if you've been watching my reviews, you know how I feel about Win. He's one of my more favorite characters on the show. He's actually got a good character. He can be funny sometimes. It feels like he actually does things that he should do. You know, there have been a couple times where I've been like, come on, Win, like, what are you doing? You know, the whole thing with helping Jimmy be Guardian. At first, he stood his ground. He stood up for what he believed in. He said, "No, I'm not going to help you." But then he realized Jimmy was going to do it anyway, so he said, "Okay, but we're going to do it on my terms." And then eventually he said, "Okay, we'll just do it on your terms." In my opinion, that's the one weak thing he's done this season. The rest of it has been, he's been a good character. Last season, they didn't really know what to do with him, so they just gave him a girlfriend, and that's all he was, just a guy fawning over a girl. This season, he's been the tech guy again. He's been the one that they turn to when they need help with tech stuff. And I'm like, thank you. Finally giving him something to do. But this episode, his dad comes back and he dies. And it's something emotionally he has to deal with. And it really is well delivered emotional scenes. And that's the big thing about this episode, is that the emotion feels real. It feels justified. When he's talking to his mom, a lot of the time when they do these stories, it's like some misunderstanding. It's just like, oh, well, I'm sorry. In this one, it feels justified. Because he says, okay, fine, if he threatened me, whatever, but, she didn't show up. When I was waiting on her to show up to pick me up as a kid, when my dad ended up in jail, she never showed up. And even if she had a reason, there were plenty of ways she could have gotten around it. It feels justified. I'm like, yeah, I totally understand that. I get where you're coming from. The one thing that finally changes his mind is that he realizes his mom tells him a different version of a story that he remembers wrong because he kind of blocked it out of his memory. But she reveals that apparently this whole time, his dad was an evil dude. Even back when he thought, oh no, my dad wasn't always evil. It was because you left. He finally remembers, no, things were bad beforehand. And he didn't realize it. Like, he truly blocked that out of his mind. And so when he realizes that, she wasn't totally the cause, there was a lot on his dad's side too, he realizes just how hard things were for her to begin with. And so he does finally end up forgiving her, which does make sense because it's still his mom, even if she wasn't completely a great person to him. So I don't know. I thought they did a very good job telling the story. I thought the chemistry was there. Like I said, the emotion was there. The scene where he's talking to her about, being at the police station waiting for her and how his nightmares are not his father. It's the fact that she left him. It really was an emotional scene, and they did a good job with it. So the story itself, ends up being apparently the toy maker's apprentice. I thought they could have gone a little bit more in depth with it. When they revealed it was a girl or a woman that was helping him, I kind of wish they had done something like, oh, it's his sister, or oh, it's Wynn's sister, or maybe it's somebody related to him. But it just turns out to be, oh, it's just an apprentice that wanted to make sure that Wynn's mom stayed away from him even after his death. So I don't know. I felt that was a little bit too easy, just making it an apprentice, because then there's no real emotional payoff in the end. When they stop her, it's just kind of like, okay, she stopped. But I did like the final fight scene with Wynn and her, and him trying to sort of think like his dad in that situation, and it ended up winning them the day. So I don't know, I like that final fight scene. However, the rest of the episode, there are some things that were and then there are some things that I'm just like, what is the point? So first of all, the what is the point stuff. Kara and Mon-El. Oh my god, like, just enough. Please. Just like I thought, after he finds out from Imra that, oh, she lied to him about their mission and Brainy's been involved too, and oh my gosh, she lied. That means he's going to go to Kara, and sure enough, exactly what he does. The one good thing that comes out of this is Kara does, at the end of it, say, I'm not the one you should be talking to about this, which is actually very smart of her, because it could have easily turned into he goes to her and she's like, oh my gosh, she's finally turning to me for help, and then they hook up again, and it's like, oh my gosh, but you're still married, what do we do? Oh my god. But no, she is very smart. She says, look, I'm not the one you need to talk to. Clearly this is something you and Emma need to sort out, and if she found out you're talking to me about this, it probably wouldn't be good. So maybe that's how it should be. And I don't know, I liked how they handled that, but the rest of the episode, it just felt like it was leading towards, oh, are they going to hook up again? There's even that one scene where she's like, yeah, I got you, buddy, being very, like, over the top, like, oh, I'm totally not into you, we're just friends. And he's just like, yeah, okay, buddy. And just like, God, this is so forced and frustrating. And another frustrating thing, Jimmy and Lena, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know why they're doing this whole, like, oh, Jimmy's so worried about her, and oh, she's not answering, and oh, maybe they're not going to work out. And then we see at the end of it, Lena is with Sam and I guess doing tests on her because, she's Rain. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing this. Why are they doing this whole thing throughout this entire episode where he's calling her and she's not answering and he's freaking out? What's the point? Oh, it shows that Jimmy really cares about her. Well, they're dating. So it would be weird if he didn't. What was this story? I don't understand it. It just kind of pops up out of nowhere and it's just like, oh no, he's worried and concerned, and that's their story for this episode. So yeah, that was weird. And then John Jones's dad, we find out apparently he's developing some sort of like amnesia, Martian amnesia. Didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, at first it seems like he's forgetting words, but John just thinks, oh, he's just having trouble with his English, but your English is fine, Dad, you're doing great. But then Alex sort of realizes whenever he forgets about his granddaughters, she's like, my grandmother was the same way. She was forgetting stuff too. And she's like, look, I have to tell John about it. And he's like, no, you will not tell John. I will decide how my son is being raised. Blah, 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 blah. Freaks out on her. She leaves. John wonders what happens. His dad doesn't tell him. She doesn't tell him. She says, look, you just need to talk to your dad. He goes and talks to his dad again. And then he's just like, I'm so sorry, son. Tells him what's going on. And then Alex hugs him at the end of the episode. I don't know. This is one of the ones... It feels like he's had no purpose on coming back to Earth with John, and so it feels like the writers are like, okay, we need to give him some reason to be there. We need to give him a purpose. Let's give him amnesia to make it emotional for John. How does this tie into the main story? It doesn't. It's just emotional stuff. Emotional character stuff. Okay. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have some stuff that happens in personal lives that can be emotional. However, this feels contrived. And that is my biggest problem with it. I have no problem with them giving him amnesia. I have no problem with them having this emotional story for him. But it feels contrived because there's been no other purpose for having John's dad come back with him. Like, you've not had him involved at all. And so to all of a sudden have him pop up and it's like, ooh, he has amnesia now, guys. It feels like you have fabricated this whole, like, we had to have him come back just for this reason. That's what it feels like. It feels like you just contrived this story out of absolutely nothing. And so the emotion that I feel also feels contrived. It is sad to see his dad going through this, but I feel like you have forcefully written this into the story with no real other connections. And that's my problem with it. If they had done this a bit more naturally, if it had been more like, his dad had a reason to come to Earth for something, and then we find out about the amnesia or something along those lines, I would feel like, oh no, this is another emotional part of the story. But literally nothing else has happened with his dad except for this. So I feel like this is the only reason he came back to Earth, is because, oh, we need to find out he's got amnesia and it's going to be sad for John. So yeah, that's my only real frustration there. Maybe they'll do something interesting with it. Maybe it's just going to be a sad emotional story for John to go through, because losing Magon was not sad enough. Let's have him go through something else sad. Aside from that, though, the rest of the episode was pretty much all focused on Win and his mom and his dad's apprentice. So I did overall enjoy this episode, but like I said, it feels like this is just going to be a one-time thing. The rain stuff can be interesting sometimes, but for the most part, it feels like they're doing some really ridiculous stuff from time to time. I still am slightly interested to see where they're going to take this. Who's going to be the third world killer? Because we've seen Rain, we've seen what was her name? I forget her name. I'll remember it eventually. But Mon-El tells Kara in this episode about Pestilence, who apparently becomes Blight later on. And so their mission is to try to stop her now. To find the last world killer and stop her now. And I do kind of wonder, is it going to be somebody we know? I feel like it has to be. Because if it weren't, then stopping her would be like, oh, well, that's no big deal. But if it's actually something where it's like, oh no, somebody we know and care about is the third world killer that they're trying to stop, that becomes emotional. It's like, oh my gosh, we might lose someone. Now, maybe it won't be anybody we know. Maybe they're just going to make it easy. I could see them doing that because this show doesn't want to be all sad. No, it's got to be all happy and just, oh, isn't that cute? I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen, but in my opinion, they could do something very interesting with this. There's potential there. So I hope they don't waste the potential. We'll see. I doubt they will take full advantage of it, but we'll see what happens. Aside from that, really just nothing else. There were a couple things. The whole karaoke bar thing didn't really take full advantage of it. They did that whole thing at the beginning where Kara's talking to them, and she's like, a lot of you may not have been able to do anything like this before, making it all like, oh, it's a mission, guys. Oh, what scary mission? And I'm like, oh, gee, I wonder why this whole setup is happening at the beginning of the episode. Could it be that it's not actually a mission, but something exciting and fun that's kind of scary and nerve-wracking? Oh, they're doing karaoke. Oh my gosh, I never saw that coming in 1,000 years. Just overused jokes. Overused jokes can get frustrating. And, of course, Mon-El can't sing. The rest of them can. Of course, Alex sings some sad song because she's sad right now because of Maggie. And oh my gosh. So, yeah, the whole karaoke thing, not that interesting. But, yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. So, on to the next one. See you there. And now, episode 15, In Search of Lost Time. So, based on how the main story has been going, this one was slightly better. Like I said in the last episode, it feels like this whole thing with John's dad, the dementia thing or whatever, it feels like it's just kind of there, and he hasn't really had a point up until now, and now they're just giving him a point out of nowhere, but it feels like this was the only reason he was brought here in the first place. But yeah, so we take a little break again from our main plot while Lena is doing her test on Sam. Meanwhile, we've got Wynn's dad and his apprentice and Wynn's mom to deal with, and now we've got John's dad and his psychic dementia thing that's terrorizing people. We've got to stop. It just feels like kind of little side quests. Both of them were interesting enough, but it doesn't feel like it's really contributing to the main plot overall, and that is something that I'll say is a little bit frustrating, is that these really do feel like little side stories that aren't going to tie in with the rest of the season at all. So, with all that being said, first talk about the main the side quest in this one. So yeah, John's dad, he's still dealing with this dementia thing, amnesia, whatever you want to call it. I know they technically call it like a Martian dementia. I'm still not really entirely sure what the difference is, even though I had 2 great-grandparents that recently passed away from amnesia and dementia. I still don't really know the difference between the two. But dementia is apparently, it's affecting his mind. And so he does like these meditative prayers in Martian that have been affecting people. Like for some reason it affects his psychic powers, and this affects this other alien that is also psychic. And then he gets to the DEO and he's doing the prayer, and his frustration psychically goes to everybody around. So, Wynn starts fighting this other computer guy. Kara and Mon-El are training, and then she gets extra frustrated, so she starts going harder. And eventually, John finally puts up a barrier to keep that from happening. So, yeah, it's pretty much it. It happens again, and John has to, pretty much stop his father from having everybody tear each other apart at the DEO. And eventually his dad does realize, oh, okay, yeah, I'll let you stop me. I don't know, it felt like that entire last battle, though, was, once again, very contrived. Because there's no reason, in my opinion, that John's dad should be all like, oh, no, no, how dare you, you are not my son, and, oh, you can't do this to me. It feels like it's just kind of there, and it pops up out of nowhere. Similar to the when he yelled at Alex in the last episode, it feels like it just sort of pops up. His anger is like, rah, 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 just to force conflict. And that's kind of what this last battle feels like, when all of the prisoners escape because his dad, like, shoots out this burst of psychic energy that blows open the doors of all the prison cells. That's all it is. It just feels like, oh, yeah, it's because his dad is angry now all of a sudden about the fact that they're trying to keep his psychic powers from destroying everything, even though they've already proven that they're destroying it. Whatever. So yeah, they managed to stop it. I don't know. It's like this show thinks it's so clever. Kara and Mon-El are walking to, I think it was the training center, and they walk by the prison cells, and they just sort of look up at this one alien that's like standing there like, ah, and it's like fish looking thing. And I'm like, okay, so either that was the most random scene in this entire season, or that guy's gonna break out later and they're gonna have to fight him. Oh, they broke out of the prison cells. I'm shocked. I'm mind blown. That foreshadowing was so subtle, how they took an entire break to look at the thing and acknowledge that it's there and then look away from it. I was shocked. This show is not subtle at all. Subtlety is like slapping you in the face for this show. It's like, oh, we're so subtle, aren't we? Anyway, little things like that just frustrate me about this show sometimes, because there's so many frustrating things, and then the little things like that frustrate me even more. So, moving on though, also got to talk about Sam and Lena and their little thing. Lena is she's run some tests on Sam, trying to figure out what's going on with her. She does end up finding out that her cells are regenerating and morphing whenever she turns into Rain. So I do find that very interesting. Because one of the things, she tests to see if she is like invulnerable at some point, and she sees that she's not a couple times. But then whenever she becomes Rain, obviously she is Kryptonian. So I find it interesting that for some reason their cells actually metamorphosize into Kryptonian DNA whenever they become these world killers. I don't know, it's pretty strange, but also interesting, because it makes us think, well, that means really anybody that we know could be the final world killer. Still don't know if they're going to go that way or not. I would be very frustrated if they did not, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. But yeah, so Sam doesn't believe anything that Lena is saying for some reason, even though she's trusted Lena with this secret about blacking out, and Lena took her to this place and run a bunch of tests. She like blows up on her needlessly out of nowhere. Once again, contriving conflict out of nothing. She's like, oh, go to anybody else, tell them something's wrong with you. They'd be like, oh, you're sick, or oh, you need some help. Go to a Luthor, and they call you a supervillain. I'm like, right, because she's shown she's so much like her family, like, oh, you really got her there. You read her like a book, Sam. It's not because the writers are just like, well, we can't just have her believe Lena, so she doesn't believe Lena. And so, of course, they do this whole scene where Lena says all these harsh things, forces Sam to turn into Rain, and then shows her the video of her turning into Rain just so she'll believe her. Kind of felt needless as well, because the first fight seemed needless, but whatever. Sam eventually does believe her and then calls Ruby to tell her, I won't be home for a while. Jimmy, once again, trying to talk to Lena. Still don't know why they're doing this whole thing. Just to remind us, oh guys, remember, Jimmy and Lena are together. Isn't that just so adorable? Oh my gosh, all you people that ship them, we heard you. We heard you when you're like, we want Jimmy and Lena together, writing about it on Twitter and stuff, all you 10-year-old girls. We were like, we agree. They need to end up together because everybody on the show has to date someone, Aww. So, yeah, it's entirely stupid. Jimmy feels pointless right now because of that. I feel like the only reason he's on the show is because they need to hook them up, They gotta end up together, guys. And and that's really the only point that he's had over these past 2 episodes, is just to call Lena, for Lena not to answer because she's busy with Sam, and for the writers to go, guys, don't you see, they're having trouble because Lena's doing her thing, but then Jimmy still accepts her because of that. Isn't that cute? Oh, sometimes this show just gives me a headache. So aside from that, though, there's not much else to this episode, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I think that's about it. They do mention Pestilence a little bit more in this one, and her power, like I said, he said in the last episode, she becomes Blight in the future, and so they're trying to stop her here because she's pretty much the one that really destroys the world. And so they're trying to figure out who it is. He says that apparently when she awakens, things that are like very Old Testament type of plagues start happening, and so they see water turning to blood. They are flying around at the very end of the episode, and like birds start dying and falling out of the sky. I guess I need to address the elephant in the room with Mon-El and Kara. I really don't want to, just because it feels pointless. So they're training together, and then she's getting frustrated, and Alex is like, are you sure it was the psychic thing? Because what if it's just because you two really aren't, working things out? What if that's the case? And the thing about it is, they've gone so back and forth, in this entire season. There's one episode where I feel like, okay, so things are actually working out. Last episode, Mon-El wanted to talk to Kara about things going on between him and Imra, and she's like, look, this isn't for me to talk about. This is not something that I should be talking about. I'm your ex-girlfriend. This isn't right. I'm like, okay, so she's finally understanding. This episode, back to her being frustrated with him again, and she says at the end, oh, it's because of the psychic powers, they brought that emotion back out of me, and I thought I was done, but no, I'm not. But I feel like they don't know what else to do, so it's just writing this conflict back into it. Oh, they get over it, but now they're angry with each other again. But then they get over it, but now they're angry with... Just have them get over it, please. Because that's been the entire story for Kara this season. Oh, we got to stop the world killers, but let's also take about half of each episode to talk about her and Mon-El. What does this mean for her now that her ex-boyfriend has come back married from the future? I wonder what it means. How do you feel, Kara? Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? Tell us all about it, because that's all we really care about. World killer? Psh, shh, shh, shh. Nobody cares about world killer stuff. Kara, how do you feel? Nobody cares. Okay, some people do care, and that's why this show, for some reason, is successful, because there are enough people out there who would rather see just a soap opera than actually a superhero show. I want to see a superhero show. I want to see characters saving the day. There can be personal life stuff in it. That's fine, but have it be progression. To have it be the same story throughout the entire season because they can't get over it, because they got to keep bringing the same plot line up. I mean, good Lord. Alex and Maggie, how many times is that going to keep popping up? They can't get over it. The writers want to keep having them come back to this because, in their minds, that's what the people want to see. And in my opinion, there aren't a lot of people that want to see the same storyline over and over again. Even the people that like seeing the relationship stuff and seeing characters get hooked up together and shipping characters and all that stuff, even they don't want to see the same storyline over and over again. So I just don't understand why they keep doing this, why they keep going back to the same old plot lines that they've already gone through and wasted. Now be done with it. But no, we got to talk about it again. Kara's got to be upset about this whole situation all over again because, she's upset, guys. She's really, really upset about this, don't you know? So, yeah, overall, these 2 episodes, there were good elements to it. There were enjoyable elements to it. But both of those stories felt like side stories. And that's the disappointing part about it, in my opinion, is that all of these little side stories are the best parts about the season so far. And they literally lead nowhere. So, yeah, frustrated. Maybe the season will get better. Maybe it'll get worse. I don't know. I'm just hoping they take full advantage of this pestilence thing, make it somebody we know and care about, to make it a more difficult story to have to deal with. Do we stop pestilence by killing them, even though it's somebody we know, or do we try to work it out to where we have to fight you, but we can't let you go free or something along those lines, because that will make it more interesting. That will make it something I can get hooked on. But if they just end up making it somebody completely random, it's not going to be interesting. It's going to be completely pointless, and that's honestly kind of what I feel like it's leading towards. So anyway, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts over these 2 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Future Supergirl reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.